So first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for being here with me today. I'm your Senator, Elaine Alquist, and it's always good for me to see you because I see your faces when I am working on the budget, when I am voting on legislation, when I am writing bills that become laws. I think of all of you and what would be good for my community. And you are my community, you are my family. I'd like to thank Vivente One as a wonderful example of keeping people in homes, in their homes, and for allowing us to be here today. You know, I chair Budget Sub 3 in the Senate, and that is Health, Human Services, Labor, and Veterans. And I'm responsible for about $80 billion in state and federal matching grants, matching funds. And that's a big responsibility to do something like that. It's a hard assignment. I really love doing it because I know it gives me the opportunity, tell me if I need to do something different with the mic here. It gives me the opportunity to make a few decisions in a very bad economic year as we have this year, as we had last year, and as we will have next year. There are some things that I can't do. If I could just wave a magic wand, IHSS workers would just be making a lot of money because you deserve it for the care that you give to people to help keep people in their homes. But unfortunately, I'm not allowed to just wave the magic wand, and no one is the reality. The governor's budget plan to cut $266 million from the In-Home Supportive Services Program, IHSS, would be devastating. I understand that it would be devastating because IHSS provides medical care to low-income, disabled, and elderly Californians in their homes and allows them to avoid more expensive out-of-home care. It is one state program that certainly delivers the best bang for the buck. IHSS serves nearly 400,000 Californians and has been a main part of the state's safety net program since 1959. And certainly, I just must say this, I as a Democrat, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues believe this, it is our duty as state legislators to protect those who are vulnerable. I, like many of you, I am the daughter of an immigrant. I am the daughter of an immigrant, a Greek immigrant. My father came to America in 1922 when he was 16 years old. He knew 4 languages. He did not, when he came here, he was not able to, he finished 6th grade in Greece, and that was it, although he spoke 4 languages. And he spent his life being a bartender or having bars and grills in St. Louis. So I understand. And I fight for you every day that I am up there. The governor's budget would reduce salaries for hardworking home care workers, which you are. And I know we have a combination today of the IHSS workers, of the families that you serve. And I know that being reimbursed at the $6 an hour rate, that's not enough to live on in Silicon Valley. That's not enough to live on in Santa Clara County. It is not a living wage, and it is not a living wage. You cannot live on that. You can't pay for housing, you can't pay for medical, you can't pay for transportation, you can't pay for utilities. I understand that. because my father slept on the floor in a two-room house in Greece his first 16 years. So I get this. Also, the governor wants to reduce the assistance, reducing the number of hours provided to over 14,000 Santa Clara County seniors and the disabled. And this means that frail seniors and the severely disabled would somehow have to figure out how to do their own meal preparation, laundry, and errands. It's a reduction of about 5 hours a week. Also, he wants to eliminate assistance to over 3,000 Santa Clara County seniors and the disabled who, according to the governor, are less severely disabled. Well, have you really wondered what less severely disabled, less severely impaired really means, according to the governor? I'll give you some examples of what less severely impaired means. Example, 38-year-old developmentally disabled Susan, who is only able to function with lots of prompting, some hand-over-hand assistance, and cannot be left unsupervised in the kitchen and cannot change the sheets on her bed, would be forced to fend for herself. According to the governor and the administration, this is less severely impaired, not being able to function alone. Another case is 73-year-old Teresa, who has severe tremors in her right hand and drags her right foot, the result of a stroke from several years ago. She's unable to carry home items from the grocery store. With the governor's proposed cuts, she would no longer be available for assistance with store shopping and errands. And how are you supposed to eat food if you can't figure out how to buy it and bring it home? You know? So these are both examples of people, and probably many here today, who would be affected by this. These cuts would have a devastating impact on IHSS recipients and your close relatives. It will pull the rug out from under many families, creating greater costs and burdens, and that's just bad economic and bad moral decisions. It's bad policy. I understand, and I'll try doing this without crying. My husband died about 2.5 years ago, retired Senator Al Alquist. He was almost 98 when he died. I took care of him completely until the last 5 weeks, when I was advised for his safety and mine that I needed to have him in a nursing home. And when I took him to the nursing home, I looked around me and I thought, why are a lot of these people here? I did all that myself for him. And he said to me, being the kind, wise person he was, he said, darling, this place is acceptable, it's perfectly fine for someone who doesn't have a family, who doesn't have a home. And it was all I could do then and at this moment to smile and just say, right now, darling, you need the kind of care. You need 3 people at any point in time, 3 large, big people, to do what I was doing, picking him up, carrying him, doing everything that you can imagine. So I really believe that people have the right to have a good quality of care and that we should not be making these cuts. So we as Democrats have rejected all of the governor's proposed cuts to IHSS, and on Tuesday, we Democrats unveiled a balanced, responsible budget plan that would turn back the proposed IHSS cuts. The plan calls for splitting the state's $17 billion shortfall, half between making cuts. We are going to make a lot of cuts, about $8.5 billion in cuts, but we also need about $8.5 billion in new revenues. Nobody wants to pay more taxes. I understand that. But the reality is that we're going to have to decide what kind of California we want to live in. Is this the kind of California that many of us and our families had the dream? That this was the land of milk and honey? Are we going to have that kind of California? Or are we going to have the kind of California where only those who are most physically and in every way fit can fend for themselves? In other words, do we have an obligation to put a hand out because we have all been helped? Yeah. Yes, we all have that obligation. And to do that, we're going to have to enact the kind of budget this year and probably next year that says, okay, we've cut as much as we can. We cannot make these cuts to IHSS, workers and their families they take care of. And we have to see that IHSS workers make more money than somebody flipping hamburgers at certain hamburger-type places, no names to be mentioned. I won't go there. So we have a bunch of really great speakers. I want to thank you for your attention. And I want to also thank all of those who will be speaking with us today. Our first speaker is IHSS participant, and might I say to the speakers, we're limiting it to 2 to 3 minutes per person. The first speaker is IHSS participant Darcy McCann, who is a 29-year-old woman with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you. Without the help of IHSS and the regional center, I'm not able to get up, get out of bed, do anything of my daily life, which I lead a very active life. I'm finishing up my degree at San Jose City College in psychology, hoping to transfer to San Jose State or Santa Clara. I volunteer at Suicide and Crisis Services at Valley Medical Center. Without the help of IHSS and the regional center, I'm not able to do that. And I'm not able to be as active in the community and impact other people. I've lived on my own since I was 18 years old. I've had a variety of people from in-home support services come in and out to allow me the opportunity to give back to other people who are less fortunate. And however, unfortunately, it's been my experiences that I've had to train people for maybe a little more than a year, and then I have to retrain just because my providers cannot make ends meet. So with IHSS cuts, it's going to be almost impossible for me to continue to give back to society. And I pay taxes, I volunteer, I speak at several different activities. I've been an advocate for people with disabilities, and without the help that I receive, I can't do that. I can't be a voice for somebody that's less impacted by their disability than I am. I'm also on the board of San Andreas Regional Center, and I see that I'm very lucky. But without those supports, I'm not able to continue on with my life, and I deserve the same quality of life as everybody else. So this would greatly impact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Darcy. Next, we have Terry Carter, who is a resident here at Vivente and is cared for by Ellen Rollins. Terry is in a wheelchair due to an auto accident. Thank you for signing.
Thank you for coming to Vivente #1, all that are here, the home care workers and the people who are just here from the news ads as well. I want to thank you for just giving me a chance to speak. I, yes, am in a wheelchair due to a spinal cord injury from a car accident in 89, where a drunk driver hit and left the scene. I was coming home from that ride from work and never made it back home due to the fact after that I went from there to home for about maybe a month and a half to 2 months and tried to stay at my home. But it wasn't accessible for me to stay there because all the rooms were upstairs. So I had to leave there and go to a convalescent home. I stayed in a convalescent home for 2 months, and that was 2 months too long. I was dropped, I was burned, and I was overdosed, and that right there is not the right to dignity. I received an award at San Jose City College due to what they call as an overachiever against diversity. If I'm going to continue to overachieve against diversity, I have to fight now, not just for myself, but for the future. And the future is children like that little young lady that you've seen on the other side, who is also, as I am, has a disability due to her hearing. I have a hidden disability. I have 2 disabilities that you can visually see. One is the amputation, one is the fact that I'm in the wheelchair, and the other one that you cannot see because of the fact that I'm voicing is I'm also hard of hearing with 90% to the left deaf and 85 to the right. We don't know when the right will go, but if I continue to take the medications of different antibiotics, it can go, and then I only have lip reading. I've been lip reading since I was 6 years old due to the fact that no one really caught on till I was 13 that I even had the hearing impairment. And I didn't get caught, really, in school until I went to take my first test in '90 to go to San Jose City College. But to make a long story short, when IHSS came to my home and knocked at the door, I was at my end. I had people coming in and out, just like Ms. Darcy here. I hired, trained, and fired each one due to the fact that they came in because they wanted a job. I gave them the opportunity for that job, and I think everyone has a right to a decent wage. This was in '95. In '95, they were paying $4.25 an hour. It cost $5.25 to get on the bus one way. So basically, that meant that they were paying 1 hour of their wage was going towards transportation. Now, if this is what the governor believes is sufficient for a in-home support service worker and a living wage, then he basically really needs to look back at 1995, where I was living in a convalescent home. $5,000 paid for me to have 3 roommates and a bed. That was it. And I'd like to thank you all for giving me the chance to speak now.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge Cindy Faulkner, who's with us. And I want us to put, real faces on those who are going to be impacted by the governor's cut. Cindy, thank you so much for being with us also. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is an IHSS caregiver, and this is Bonnie Mello. Bonnie is also a mother and caregiver for 16-year-old Danica. And Bonnie.
Hello, I am an in-home support service care provider for a young woman whose daily life is impacted by her severe developmental disability. She relies on me for all of her personal care needs and for some hours of protective supervision because of her cognitive limitations. She currently receives 8 or 9 hours of in-home supportive services a day, and this summer she spends 4 hours in a school program, and the rest of the day she is supported by me with no compensation. Weekends and non-school days, I support her the additional 16 hours in a 24-hour period. I get up in the middle of the night when she wakes up and needs care. I dress her, brush and floss her teeth, take her to the bathroom, and change her wet or soiled pull-up. I help her get into the bathtub. I help lower her body as she sits down in the tub, and then shampoo her hair and wash her. I shave her under her arms. I cut her fingernails and I cut her toenails. I also cut her food into small pieces like you would for a young child because she is at risk for choking on food that she may not chew completely. I do this every day. A wage cut will affect me. Being paid to do these tasks removes some of the burden of caring for someone at home with severe developmental disability. It also removes some of the financial burden and some of the emotional burden because with the support of in-home supportive services, I am assured that our community believes that this work has value. This job is important to me. I am making a financial contribution to my family, and my teenage daughter is being cared for in a supportive family environment. If in-home supportive service hours and wages are cut, and we are not able to continue to care for her in our home, she will be placed in an institutional setting at far greater cost to the state. If she could talk, she would tell you herself that she would choose to be cared for at home, in the context of her family, within her familiar neighborhood and community. For her sake, for her quality of life, for her dignity, I ask you all to denounce the governor's cuts to the elderly and to people with disability. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. I would also like to acknowledge Dora Castro. Is Dora here? And Dora, like Bonnie, is one of the hardworking home care workers who keep the disabled and seniors out of nursing homes and other expensive institutions. I don't think it's being dramatic in saying that those of you who are IHSS workers, for you this is an act of love what you do. I mean, there are probably some people who wouldn't do it if it were paid $100 an hour. And you are the angels, and we acknowledge that, and I sure hope that the governor does, and I certainly will tell him what I think, and hopefully there will be something in a newspaper that will show what I think on this issue. Next. I had the pleasure of meeting John. I said to John, John, you could be state senator someday. You could be more than that. What do you think of that? Yeah. John and I had the opportunity to meet in Sacramento. And at that point, he gave me a poem that he wrote. John is the 13-year-old. 14-year-old. Oh, you're 14 now. older brother of Patricia, who's in this beautiful purple dress, and who is an IHSS recipient, and whose grandmother is the provider guardian. I also want to acknowledge in the family Elizabeth Delgado. And Emily Madana, is she here? Okay, okay, thank you also for being here. John is going to speak, and I'm so glad that John, who is 14 years old, is going to speak and be an advocate today, as he is always for his sister. Yes, if she wants to take notes, she can write on anything.
There you go. Okay. My name is John Hernandez.
Can you hear him? Oh. How's that? Or maybe she wants to be right there. That's okay. She wants to be by her brother. Can you just?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm John Hernandez. I'm 14 years old, going into my freshman year of Santa Clara High School. Right next to me is my younger sister, Patricia, who is going into her fifth grade year. And it was only about 10 years ago when she was born. She was born 5 months early, so which meant a lot of complications. So that way, right when she was born, her left lung collapsed, which for about until September, she had a trach, and she got it out, which she can breathe through her mouth, which she couldn't do during the first 10 years of her life. And now she is a lot happier because she has that. But along with the trach gone, she had gotten something new. She had gotten a voice amplifier, which is around her neck right now, which amplifies her voice because her voice during a surgery, I'm not very sure what happened, but her voice didn't, it's not coming out, or she has very little voice. So she needs a lot of care, clothing, laundry, just like caring for her everyday child. But she is a very special child. She doesn't like to be excluded from anything, not at all. And if she is, she'll let you know. But with these budget cuts that the governor is proposing, then her meal preparation, her laundry, and her errands, which is about will be reduced 5 hours a week. And this will happen to all of the home care workers. Also, if he does this, it'll eliminate the IHSS for over 3,000 Santa Clara senior citizens and disabled who, according to the governor, aren't just regular people. They don't need it. Which I know many of you do need it. And so some of you, your recipients, are very sick and ill, but he doesn't consider it, he's just worried about himself. We're here to tell him that we want an honest budget. We want what everybody else is getting. We don't want, just the bottom of the barrel. We want a lot more than that. If he cuts our wages, we're only going to get $9 an hour, which is less than minimum, almost less than minimum wage. We're at $12.35 an hour, and we had to work for that. You had to work for that. Which, it took a lot. It took about, many years just to get a quarter. And we want to keep that quarter. We want to keep that dollar. We want to keep it with us. We don't want to lose it. Because in this economy, it's very hard to live now. As Senator Alquist had said earlier. So all we're telling him today is that he needs to quit it. He needs to quit picking on us.
That's great.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say? John, I'm glad I didn't have to speak right after you. Also, John, you know, when you're 16 or 17, if you want to come and do an internship in my district office in San Jose, we'd love to have you. Right. Our next speaker, who gets to follow John, is Janie Whiteford, the president of the California IHSS Consumer Alliance. And we need the mic for you.
It's right here. Hi, thank you very much for this opportunity. I represent, or SECA, the organization that I'm president of, is a statewide organization of advisory committee members throughout the state of California. Every county has an advisory committee that speaks for the consumers and gives recommendations to the Board of Supervisors and any other entity in the county that has anything to do with in-home support services. We take our mandates under the law very, very seriously. And because of this, we strongly oppose the budget cuts. They are not only morally wrong, but they are very penny wise and very pound foolish. If you look at all that's been said today, you will realize that folks need these services to remain in their own homes. To ask people who are at a functional index of under 4, which means that they are still have disabilities, they have impairments, but for some reason, they think that they can be independent. It's not the case. If these people have to go off in IHSS, they are incredibly vulnerable for hospitalizations and for institutionalization. We know how expensive this is. IHSS more than pays for itself. It more than pays for itself. If folks have to go because they cannot take care of themselves, they can't do their medications, they aren't able to get the proper food, they become very vulnerable for going into whether it be emergency care or into hospitalizations, and we know how much the hospital costs now. It's way more than paying somebody $12.35 an hour to come into the home to help them to take care of their needs in their home as needed at all levels, whether it's a functional index of 2 or whether it's a functional index of 6, that it's absolutely a viable thing. And institutionalization for many of these folks is another object that we absolutely will not stand for. These budget cuts cannot go through, and the only way to avoid them is with enhancements on revenues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have, oh, that's okay. Next we have Christian Griffith, the Budget Director of Santa Clara County Social Services Agency. Either place, wherever you. Actually, put the mic, the sound is not good on the mic. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. On behalf of the Santa Clara County Social Service Agency, I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank the leadership of Senator Corbett, Assemblymember Jim Bell, and especially Senator Lane Alquist for opposing these reductions to the IHSS program, which would have been reductions to both the clients and to the staff in my agency that run the program day to day, about $20 million worth of reductions in total that would impact 14,500 clients. And to give you a picture, that's enough people to sell out a Sharks game. That's how many people would be impacted. The IHSS program is a real investment in dignity. You've heard the speakers previous to me identify how this brought dignity to their lives, and on average, the state spends $10,000 or less on an IHSS provider to avoid putting that person into an institutionalized care, which would cost over $60,000 a person. It's a good investment, and we really appreciate the leadership from the members here today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce my assemblyman, Jim Bell.
All right. Well,
And happy wedding anniversary.
well, 25 years. I'd like to thank everybody for being here because we really have to get together and fight this. This is about fighting a budget that has a lack of empathy. That's what it comes down to, a lack of empathy for people that are disabled. And, you know, I have as everybody knows, I have my stepson Greg who lives with us, and we are care providers for Greg. He's developmentally disabled and has mental health problems. And my wife Pat and I provide care for Greg. We noticed that a lot of times people tend to ignore him because of his disability. Well, what this budget does is it does that for all the people that are disabled in California. It says we're going to close our eyes and we are not going to pay attention to their suffering and we are not going to pay attention to their disability. And I only have one thing to say about it. No way. No way. No way. And no way are we going to let the governor and the Republican legislatures stop the programs that provide care for IHSS in our community. You know, it's really interesting. You know, it doesn't make any budget sense at all. If one or two of these people out of 100 go to a nursing home, it wipes out all the budget savings they're talking about. And you know darn well that that's going to happen. In fact, it'll be more than one or two that'll go to a nursing home if they're not cared for. So this is an ill law, and that's been proven by the analysts and the legislative analysts that work for the legislature. So no way are we going to let them force people who live in their own homes to go to nursing homes. And no way are we going to take, we're actually increasing the taxes for IHSS people. You know, they're raising the rates for 7,000 of them, $427. So they're taking the tax hit, and you notice we're not spreading the pain to other people. We're targeting it to people that are disabled. And yes, we have to make some tough choices in Sacramento. But for me, the best and easiest choices are, we say no way to cuts to disabled people. People that are disabled should be protected by the state. We should have a budget with empathy, and that's what the Democrat budget stands for. So we want people to get behind us, to write to people, the governor, the other legislatures, and rally behind us so that we can have a budget with empathy, and we can have a budget that protects people that need protection, and that's what our budget is all about. And the governor has to re-examine this cut because there's no way. No way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. It is my pleasure now to introduce Senator Ellen Corbett, who shares part of Santa Clara County with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that warm welcome, and I am one of the newer senators, and I'm very honored to represent Santa Clara County. I'm also very honored to be here this afternoon with the strong and courageous speakers that we've heard, and all of the rest of you are here to support this cause. I just have one small thing to say. I think John for governor. I'm here because I agree with my elected official, the people who share this district with me. I believe in dignity and respect, And the reason we're here today is because we're willing to fight for dignity and respect. What the governor wants to do, we've already talked about it, the governor wants to cut wages and cut hours and cut people out of a program that has been a mainstay since 1959 as a part of what we do as Californians, what we believe in respect and dignity. And as Senator Alquist said, what we're here today for is to make sure that we protect those that are most vulnerable. And as Assemblymember Bell has said, we're here to protect those who are most vulnerable. It just does not make sense that we would cut the safety net at this time. Now, please know that we are fighting so hard in Sacramento. Just a few days ago, as my colleagues have mentioned, the conference committee came out with its report. And the Democrats say that we are not going to make these cuts, that we are going to find more revenue, that we are going to close tax loopholes, and we're going to restore funding for this very important program. It does not make sense that we don't take care of the people that need our help the most. Just the other day when I was leaving Sacramento, we had session late on Thursday, and I was driving on my way to the freeway to come home to the district. I drove by a local health club, and it caught my eye because there were a couple of CHP motorcycles out in front, and there were some very big dark cars. And so obviously what that meant was the governor was there, and he was working out. Now, the governor cares about health, right? He cares about taking care of people. We know that he cares about taking care of himself. So we need to let him know that everybody that's here today is just important as what he was doing that evening. That we're going to take care of people and make sure that they have the support they need to live in dignity, to live in their homes, to have their everyday concerns taken care of, that those of us who are able-bodied, like the governor, take for granted. So that's why I'm here today, to support this cause and to do everything we can to make sure that this proposed budget that we are putting before the governor is signed. And we will all fight. We will need your help too, but we will all fight together to make sure this happens. Thank you all for being here today.
Just a few comments in closing. I'd like to thank all of you for being here, and also particularly for our speakers. It always takes a little courage to stand in front of a microphone. I want to make a couple points that I may not have made before. What we're dealing with in Sacramento, and of course on the budget in the Senate, I am one of 5 people, Senator Ducheney, who chairs the budget, and then there are 4 of us who each share a piece of it, and my portion is about 30%, which is health, human services, labor, and veterans. And in my subcommittee on that, we rejected, all of these cuts. But in addition to the governor, and in addition to the Democrats, we're also talking about the Republicans. And because we need a 2/3 vote on the budget, which in the Senate means we need 2 Republican senators, there's got to be some bipartisan effort. So it's going to be really important that you advocate, and you're great advocates. But you also really spend a lot of time with Republicans, because we can't pass a budget unless we have 2 Republican votes in the Senate. And in the Assembly, because there's more Assembly members, it will take more Republican votes there. We basically run out of money about August 1st. Ouch. We basically run out of money about August 1st. So we don't have much time, and we really need to communicate, all of us, you, me, everyone else, that it's unconscionable that these cuts would be made to IHSS, that it is unconscionable, that we have to say no, that this is not the way we treat anybody in California. And the way we treat one person is really how it looks like we treat all people. If we mistreat one person, it takes that shining star away from the state. And for all of the people who benefit from IHSS services, who want a good quality of life, for all of you who provide the IHSS services and work very hard and get paid very little. It is time that we just say, enough is enough, and we're not going to cross this line. So, John, we want to say goodbye. And John, you were the star. The star. I'm not very good with microphones. Do you have any last comments? Do you want to say anything? No? John, do you want to say anything in closing?
Sure. What he has been doing is really wrong, and what we're going to show him is that we are people too. You know, he can do it with his workouts and everything, but he needs to get it together because he's not going to be in office for a long time anymore.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.